Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Card City Nights. It's by a company called Ludosity. Like a very, very small developer from Sweden, if I recall correctly. And they made a game called It'll Do, as well as a bunch of other stuff. It'll Do was fairly well received. It was a 2D, almost Zelda-ish kind of game with a rather unique art style. And they made a huge amount of Android games and game jam stuff. They've made quite a few, but most people don't really know too much about them. Along comes Card City Nights, which is a simultaneous release, at least as far as I'm aware, on Android as well as on PC. And it's a single-player trading card game, which reminds me quite a lot of the old Pokemon trading card game on Game Boy Color. You start with a terrible deck, you go around trying to acquire the 8 legendary cards by beating various NPCs, and you build and improve your deck as you go, and are able to acquire booster packs as well as buy and trade individual cards within the game. Simple as that. Does it have an options menu? Not much of one, I've got to say. Yeah, you did just see that, you're not hallucinating. Music, sound, ambience, battle speed. The launcher gives you a variety of resolution options as well as windowed on or off. Really as simple as that. And that's really about it. And honestly, it's entirely two-dimensional, and I think that's about all it really needs. As you can see, I have 2 of the 8 legendary cards thus far, and my win-loss ratio is infinity. As in, I haven't actually lost a best-of series up to this point, and I'm about 2 hours into the game, as is well demonstrated here. Also, yes, my avatar is a carrot wearing a fedora. I'm not really sure what that represents, but hey, there you go. Now, it does have a help menu. You don't really need it. For the most part, it's actually fairly easy to understand, and I'll explain it as we go into it. Now, almost the entirety of the game is focused on card battling, as I mentioned earlier. So, if I want to do that, let's pop into the mall and get ourselves into a card battle. Now, this character right here, I believe, is extremely similar, if not an identical copy from characters from It'll Do. In fact, that might even be the main character or something along those lines. Looks very, very similar one way or the other. A lot of the character models and the art in here is borrowed from their other games. Some of them less well known. In fact, there's a lot of card art and sets that are based on games you've probably never heard of because they were prototypes or games that they did in Game Jam or anything like that. So there you go. Now, there's a bunch of dialogue. Some of it's relatively funny, I've got to say. Fairly well written. And let's have a fight with him. That sounds like a fairly good idea. And get into that, and I can show you the main mechanic of the game. Okay. So, best of 3 card battle between the 2 of us. This is the only deck I currently have, so I'm going to select that. Let's get in. Alright, so a coin flip determines who goes first. These are the 2 card selections here. I have slightly more cards than this fellow, and I'll explain why in a minute. So these are the 5 cards I've currently got in my hand. Some of them look very strange indeed. Let's have a look at the anatomy of this card, not literally, from the series Space Hunk, which, if I recall correctly, was actually a game jam thing that Ludosity put together. So you'll see card effects, card icons, and the frame. The frame means it's a common card. I can have up to 5 of them in a deck. There are 2 other types, uncommon and rare. Uncommons can only be put in 3 times, and rares can only be put in once. Rares, needless to say, are pretty good most of the time. So, the things to bear in mind are the type of the card. So, there are 4 types. That being attack, defense, neutral, and revive. And then you've got card effects here, assuming there are any, and these arrows. Now, these arrows are extremely important because, as you probably noticed, we're dealing with a 3x3 grid here. So in order to do anything, you need to create combos. The way that you do that is by having these arrows line up, and in most circumstances, what you want to do is line up 3 of them, and that will allow you to do a combo. So an attack can do damage either to the opponent's health, which is here, or it can actually disable a card on the opponent's board, meaning that it has to be revived in order for it to be used once again. Defense gives you health, and then you've got these, which are revive combos. Revive combos can be done with only 2 cards instead of 3, so that's worth bearing in mind. And then these, which don't do anything other than link stuff up. So, do I have any other option? Not really. Can I set up a combo that will trigger next turn? Also, not really. Let's see if we can figure something out that might actually work. Doesn't look like it. This is really the only card I can use to join stuff together accurately. I can't use these cards right now because it will trigger a revive combo and wipe these cards off the board. So I'll toss that one down here. You'll notice this card is rotating. There is a reason for that. very much so. Cards rotate based on various different factors, but mostly on their card text. So that one just spins around over and over again. And the rotation of the card means that the arrows point in different directions, which is absolutely key. Making sure that your deck has an appropriate number of each card that points in the right direction so you actually have combinations that work is how the game operates. So next turn I will be able to combo up for a 3-card attack. In the meantime, of course, he's playing his. Now, I mentioned the ability to disable earlier. In fact, I may have to attempt to do that, considering I think he's going to attack me again next turn. So what I'll try and do here is I'll set up a combo of 3. Now, this is only going to attack for 2 damage. Alternatively, I can disable a card on the board, like this one, for instance. I don't want to disable this one, because if I do, it actually has an effect. It will damage me for 1 if I disable it. So I'm going to disable the one in the middle. There we go. So that makes those cards disappear off my board. And as you can see, he was about to hit me hard. So it's a good job that I was able to disable this card. The only way to bring disabled cards back is either via a card effect or via a revive. It's like, this is a revive. This is a rare revive card. It's got a lot of arrows on it. It actually has a combo, so it gives me +2 life when I use it. Yeah, I think you can see what's going on with it. So it's an interesting tactical spin on what you would usually see from titles like this. An upcoming combo that's going to work pretty well. It's rather intriguing, to say the least. Now, how do you beat your opponent? There's a couple of ways. Either you get them down to 0 life, or you make sure that their entire board is blocked up so that they can't actually do anything. If they can't put a card down and all 9 spaces are taken, that's it. They die immediately. This is a very viable way of doing things, and considering the AI, especially early on in the game, is fairly weak, it's pretty easy to exploit it and make them do stupid things. Now, looking at what he's got right here, none of this is going to work at all. Like, there's no way. But he may be able to do a revive combo to reactivate this, so I'm going to nuke this one, make sure it doesn't work, and I'm just going to block his board up. And that's a... yeah, I think that looking at what he's got right now, there's really no way he's going to be able to get out of this easily. He may be able to pull it off, maybe, but I need to... just be careful and make sure he doesn't. So he's going to do a little bit of damage to me there. Oh, he actually has a possibility of hitting me. Do I have any attack card that can link? Nope. So it looks like I may be able to screw with him, but I think he might be able to get back into this. Let's see. Can I make a line of 3? The robot elf is... while it may not be particularly strong, it has 3 links on it, which is why it's very valuable. And it can be put in the center of the board and give you a whole bunch of combos that'll actually work. But right now, I don't think I have anything that will link to it. I'd either need something that points left or something that points northwest. And I don't have either of those. Irritating. But never mind. Such is the way of things. I don't want to really plop that down there. That's actually a bad play overall. The last thing you want to do is set yourself up in such a way that you can't get out of it. But let's see if he actually has the card he needs here. He does. Well, that's gonna suck. Ouch! And immediately I lose as a direct result of that. The AI is getting a little smarter. Early on in the game, the AI is dumb. Extremely dumb. In fact, even the second boss was reasonably easy to exploit, based on the fact that his entire deck was full of attack cards, and if you disabled, like, one of them, you completely ruined his deck. So he just kept throwing down cards, and then he'd block himself up there. The second thing you can do is to go for fatigue. Similar to the way Hearthstone works, once your deck runs out, you start taking fatigue damage. It starts at 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and if you have a larger deck than your opponent, that means that fatigue damage, well, doesn't affect you, but it affects them. And so far, I've not seen an opponent use more than 25 cards, so I put a few more cards in my deck, and that actually resulted in me never losing to fatigue, which I suspect that might just be a problem early on in the game. I think that's a... oh god, that's terrible. Wow, I just got absolutely screwed by that. That fire sword will now not link to anything, so this is a disaster. Oh dear. It does seem like there is the possibility that it might just be an issue with the early game, but those two components seem very easy to exploit, in my experience. Oh man, I don't know where to go from here. I just got absolutely screwed by that. It's really, really bad. You'll also notice that some of these cards will actually attack without 3s. So the number of emblems that are on the card indicate how many it counts towards the combo. So really gives you 2 attacks. So you can very easily combo that. It's an incredibly powerful card. Now, I've got an upcoming combo, but I need to do a revive combo first if I want to do anything of the sort. Thankfully, I have the means to do that. So we're going to throw down a revive there, revive this card, which will then form this combo, and then I can attack. Now, do I want to disable this card or go right for the jugular here? I'm going to disable that card in the center. There we go. The mechanic's very interesting. I don't know if it's 100% original, but it's fun. And I haven't really seen it all that... I haven't seen any game that actually does this. The grid stuff is done in different ways with different card games, like... Might and Magic Duel of Champions does the grid thing, but it doesn't do it anywhere like this. And if I recall correctly, Eye of Judgment, the old PS3 virtual card game, also did it. But again, not in exactly the same way. I'd also say that, as a result, it's almost like it's more of a puzzle game than anything else, because you're thinking several moves ahead, and you're thinking, well, what's left in my deck? Can I link these together? And how can I make the biggest, most powerful combinations as I do so? Okay, I'm going to try and screw the opponent over here by using Tipsy's special ability, which should rotate a random enemy card, which makes Trundler absolutely useless. He might still murder me anyway, though. In fact, I think it's actually coming in right now. I'm going to throw down Lena to get +2 defense, except that's not going to do the job and I'm going to die. Ah! I should have placed the gate instead, and then I would have lived through that. Well, that actually is my first loss in this game, so evidently the AI has really got things going. Let's have a look at some other things, shall we? Like the act of buying and selling cards. You can buy cards from this fellow right here. And it's done through this interface. Now, this is actually very similar to the deck building interface, and if I were to have any big complaints about the UI, it would be in the deck building interface. So, let's buy something, shall we? We got 113. I want to buy another Fire Sword. I want to go up to a full 3 of those, because they're really good. Some of the cards are just flat out better than others. Like, the Fish Bun, from what I can tell, unless there is another card that combos with the Fish Bun, is rubbish. It's an attack card that only has a single icon pointing down. You might want to pile it into an attack-only deck, but Mark is just flat out better, and you can get several Marks. You can go up to 5 of those. So, would you want a Fish Bun, or would you want Mark, who actually has an additional link? Generally, you wouldn't want a Fish Bun. But again, I can maybe see some utility if you have a full-on, all-out attack deck, but it's not very good otherwise. There are just some cards which are bad. It's really as simple as that. And the game seems to be okay with that, because it wants you to eventually upgrade to uncommons and rares and the best combinations. And since it's not a multiplayer game, it doesn't really matter if all the cards are balanced. And it also doesn't matter if you're competitive with a basic deck. In fact, it doesn't want you to be competitive, and it deliberately dumbs the AI down at the start so you can actually beat it. Now, filtering the deck, we'll go to the deck building thing here. Again, uses very similar interfaces, I think you'll probably figure out here. Filtering the deck can be done through alphabetical, rarity, duplicates, and arrows. So, as you can see, these ones at the top are the ones that have the most arrows. They've got 3 each, going all the way down to 1, and in fact 0. The Strongman, for instance, you place it, it does 1 damage to the opponent. And that's it, but it doesn't go away. That's the main problem with it, and it can really block your deck up. I can see utility for it, again, if you're going for a full-on rushdown deck, because most of these opponents don't start with much health at all, so in theory you could do that. But it certainly has its issues. There are other cards which combo with specific cards. DJ combos together with AJ, for instance, if you can get that. So the deck sorting is reasonable, I think. You can also sort by theme as well. This is one of my legendary cards. It's from the Bunny Bow game series. Look at that's from Bromancing Saga 2, Professional Mansassins. Robot Elf is from Garden Gnome Carnage, which I believe is a web game they did. This is from Healthy Weapon, which is a Android game they did. Also from Healthy Weapon, and same with Mildegrad. A lot of these are actually from there. And then if we go further down, there's just stuff from Italdew and things like that, which you're probably not familiar with most of it. It seems fairly unlikely. It's pretty obscure, but the theme is fine. It's funny. I like the art style. I don't think everyone will. I think some people will just view it as cheap, but I think it's got a certain charm to it for the most part. The problem I've got with the deck building is mostly a UI issue, and this may be symptomatic of the fact that it's also on Android. A lot of the buttons are very large, which you've probably noticed here. You do have these scroll bars, which work absolutely fine. But if you want to remove things en masse from the deck, there doesn't seem like there's a way to do that without dragging each individual card. So the dragging is pretty irritating, honestly. It's like, okay, I want to throw this in and this in. It's like, you'd think maybe just a control click if you want to build a deck quickly or remove stuff quickly, but you can't do that. Each individual card from the pile, like, oh, I've got to remove the drones one after another after another. It's unnecessary and a little bit irritating, and as I said, I very much believe that it is as a direct result of being a game which is also on Android. I can only have one legendary per deck. In fact, I might just toss out my Flip Hero and just throw King Bunny DX in there, just for a little bit of stronger defense. But we do also come down to the idea of the price point. This game is cheap. Extremely cheap. Ridiculously cheap. Right now, until the 21st of Feb, it is $2, which is, I mean, it's nothing. And it'll go up to $4 after that, which in my opinion is also nothing. It doesn't have multiplayer, but it's got a reasonably lengthy campaign. I'll say I put 2 hours in, and I've got 2 of the 8 legendary cards I'm looking for here. So it's got a decent amount of content. It also has, interestingly enough, a reason to sort of explore the different areas on the map, because there's a hidden object game going on here, where you can actually find random coins if you click in the right places. So that's a fairly interesting thing to do, I've got to say. And as I think the art's okay. Some people won't like it. I mean, it's not exactly high fidelity, is it? But I think it's got a certain charm to it. It's fairly enjoyable. Getting booster packs is nice. It's certainly very compelling. One other thing I will say about it is good music, actually. Very good music. It's got a 28-song soundtrack, which is a bit of a mix of sort of standard game tune with some lounge stuff and a little bit of jazz in there for good measure. Now, I don't believe I can actually fight with any of those, unfortunately, so we'll get out of there and we'll go and duel someone else. I think we could just gotta... Well, we could just go back to the Mega Mall, perhaps. There we go. We'll have one more duel. I think that this is a game that would work to some degree in multiplayer, certainly. I have a feeling it would be fairly enjoyable, but it could also take a while. Because, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person that would spend a long time thinking over my moves, especially later on in the game. I think the AI is, as I mentioned earlier, a bit exploitable. Early on, it's just incredibly dumb. I forced a lot of wins out of the AI just by surviving until they run out of cards. Which is weird. Like, it's strange that they would let you do that. You can go, I think, up to 40 cards, maybe even higher than that. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily want to do that, because you wouldn't be able to get the right number of cards to draw them reliably, but I can see certain circumstances where you would, especially considering you put 5 commons of each type in your deck. So, I don't know, maybe you would go for something like that. That's a possibility. There's the revive combo going off, doesn't actually do anything whatsoever. It's fish bun. It's a pretty terrible place to put the fish bun, actually. I'd put it in the corner. As I said, you know, the AI makes some very strange decisions from time to time. But it does get good at times. As you saw earlier, I actually did lose, and the AI played well. So I think for the most part, it's fine. And this music, it's pretty nice. I'll let you listen to a little. Yeah, pretty solid. Decent music. Well presented. Definitely looks like an indie game, no doubt about that, but we are talking about a card game here. It doesn't actually have to look fantastic. It looks good enough for what it is. as far as I'm concerned. So would I recommend it? Yeah, I think so. Well, as I said, I have some trepidations about the AI from time to time, and the UI could use some updating. Just little basic features like the ability to move an entire card stack over properly without having to drag, double-click functionality, just stuff that should be in there if you weren't considering it to be a mobile game. Outside of that, it's got plenty of content. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion. I'm enjoying it, certainly. And the price is hard to argue with, I've got to say. It's just the mechanics in general are very enjoyable. They're very satisfying to play. It reminds me of other card games, but it isn't, you know? It doesn't copy other games. And the value of cards, and considering the idea that you have to balance your deck based on the number of connections that you can have, is a little unique. Usually just base it on a power curve or something like that. This is not a game that really is concerned with ideas like tempo or mana curve or draw or anything like that. That's not how it works. It is almost, as I mentioned earlier, a puzzle game. And it's compelling enough. I think it's a nicely designed little title that's actually very enjoyable for the price tag. And it's certainly something you should look into. And at $2, it's effectively a no-brainer for anyone that enjoys anything remotely related to card games. Really. You know, that's a hard to argue with price point. Even $4 is a pretty difficult to argue with price point. So you might want to give it a bash. Goes by the name of Card City Nights. It's currently available on Steam, as well as Android for $2 until the 21st of Feb, at which point it will go up to $4, which, as far as I'm concerned, is still more than reasonable for what's on offer here. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Card City Nights, currently available on Steam and Android. I'll see you next time.